This is easily one of the biggest geopolitical financial stories of the last 4 years, and virtually nobody has heard about it yet. How fast things truly turn around with a new president-elect at the helm and a strong leader. Now, if you listen to state-sponsored media like CNN, MSN, and even at times Fox News, you would think that Putin and Russia are public enemy number one. However, less than 24 hours ago, Russian president and enemy of the West just shared something truly shocking that will have large implications for crypto and XRP as they roll out their new stablecoin RLUSD. And this is right off the tail of Donald Trump winning the presidential election, where Vladimir Putin reached out to begin talks for peace. And this explains why he made his latest speech, which we're going to cover in this video. Combine this with the first breath of fresh air Ripple and XRP have had in 6 years since this totally ridiculous and corrupt attempt by the SEC to shut XRP down went south. And Brad Garlinghouse recently took to X to share, and now finally we see the light at the end of the tunnel. The tides are shifting, headwinds are turning to tailwinds, and the opportunity for those of us who believe in the future of XRP is enormous, my friend. In other words, they're truly running full steam ahead with the launch of their new stablecoin, RLUSD, alongside a major economic center like the UAE and Dubai, which will bring insane amounts of liquidity to the XRP ledger and likely prompt the price of XRP. So if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777, and if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Before we dive in, a quick reminder that the opinions in this video are for informational and educational purposes only and do not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. All investments, including cryptos, carry risks and potential losses. Always do your own research and consult with a licensed financial advisor. We are not licensed financial advisors, and relying on our content for financial decisions is at your own risk. By watching this video, you agree we are not responsible for any losses or damages, and we do not guarantee any specific results or outcomes. Some of the links below may be affiliate links, and we may earn a commission, which actually helps support this channel and helps us to create value-based videos like this. We also hold some positions in the cryptocurrencies that we talk about, but that's only because we do what we believe in. However, this should not be interpreted as a recommendation for you to do the same. With that said, let's get into the video. Hello and welcome back to the Bull Runners channel. My name is Paul, and we're going to dive into what Putin recently shared. However, say what you will about these larger than life and boisterous personalities like Trump and Putin. Trump is Trump, but he's only been the president-elect for a total of 3 days now, and already we have a lot of news. For example, the EU said they will now be buying oil from the US, no longer buying from Russia. Hamas calls for an immediate end to the war. Putin said he wants to negotiate with Ukraine. China says it hopes for peaceful coexistence. Bitcoin hits an all-time high. Stock market, best day in 2 years. Iran's currency falls to record lows. NYC ended its migrant debit card program, declared war on the cartels, announced we'll be withdrawing American troops from Syria, and Russia announces one major piece of news that we're going to cover in this video. Now, as for Putin, he's probably not that great of a dude. Sure, he's definitely a dictator, but if he was truly the largest enemy of the West, I don't think he'd share what we're about to show you in this video. In other words, if you haven't drank the Kool-Aid from the legacy media outlets, I would argue the USA is usually the biggest bully worldwide. With the almighty dollar, the reserve currency of the world, they have the power to hold sanctions. We have the most consumers in the world. In other words, countries need our people to get rich, and we also have the strongest military in the world. And we use a combination of all of these factors to leverage and topple governments and get what we want, or at least those in the DC swamp, and their cronies in the military-industrial complex, so on and so forth. Now, what's really interesting is that this news has not been covered in the legacy media. We only hear what they want us to hear, and this video hasn't made its rounds outside of X. So with that said, let's have a listen to what Putin just shared.
We're not abandoning dollar in Russia. They simply refuses to allow to use dollar as a settlement tool. Well, even so, I think if we are denied that, it's so foolish of the US authorities, because the dollar is the pillar of US power, and they're undoing it by their own hand. I thought that whatever happens, dollar is like a sacred cow, should not be touched. It's in discontinuation. The udder is dirty. They got rid of the horns. Well, they're to blame on their own. The payments in dollars are decreasing. Not too much as of yet, but as means of savings, it's going down step by step, very gradually. It's shrinking, but it's a trend. It's their own doing. But we're not fighting against it. Our proposals are not aimed against dollar. This is simply us rising to the challenge of modern times, a response towards the development of economy. We're thinking about the future tools. And what's relevant today is what I've said before, creation of a system, using the groundwork of the systems in each country, exchanging of financial information, and those tools that I've mentioned will develop them.
In other words, it seems Putin actually wants to negotiate with the US and actually use the US dollar alongside other settlements and currencies. Why? Well, that would be fiscally responsible, right? If he was a nationalist, just as we're supposed to be nationalists and care for our countries, but then we would want the best thing possible for our citizens. Now, a lot of people may differ on what they think he thinks is best versus what they think is best, but at the end of the day, the one thing is certain. I do believe he cares about Russia, and I also believe Trump cares about the US. So let's not get this whole thing mixed up and say, well, now they're apologists towards each other, and now they're only buddy-buddy because they're really in bed together. That's not true. At the end of the day, you don't want to make more enemies in the world. You want to make friends. Trump is the only president we've had in our current lifetime, or at least in my lifetime, that hasn't started a new war. He actually created a peace accord called the Abraham Peace Accords in the Middle East. However, when Biden got in office, being a career politician, that all went out the window. And then during his tenure, we saw the Middle East explode in war. And now there is a leak from CNN to unelected officials at the Pentagon that are already holding secret meetings on what to do if Donald Trump issues orders they don't agree with. Now, have a listen to what Scott Jennings recently shared on CNN with this corruption in Washington.
Questions at the Pentagon. I don't know at what level this is. It just seems like it's informal discussions. I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also, Scott, is it?
Look, I don't like this, because what's Donald Trump supposed to think? You know, he's sitting down there, he's the president-elect, and now he's got to read in the newspaper tonight that the unelected bureaucracy of the federal government is having meetings at some level about how to thwart or countermand the commander-in-chief. I don't care if it's at the Pentagon or at the HUD or Ag Department. It doesn't matter. The unelected bureaucracy of this government answers to the civilian and duly elected leadership that we just did. And what if you were in his shoes and you just won the popular vote with a clear mandate, and now you got to read that these unelected bureaucrats are plotting against you? What would you think? If they have problems, let me finish. If they have problems, they should not have meetings that then leak to the press. If they have ideas or things, they should call the president's office and say, hey, we'd like to have some discussions for planning purposes. But secret meetings that leak? Terrible way to get off to a start with the new administration.
And so at this moment in time, I'm pretty confident there will be some level of mutiny to which Trump is just going to have to completely tear down or dismantle our current form of government. And we're not talking about our constitutional republic, but more so those people in power currently or vying for seats of power that are totally and morally corrupt. That said, I believe Zelensky is one of them, as Zelensky's regime explained on Sky News this morning that it is unwilling to agree to any peace deal with Russia. So here's Russia saying, we'd like a peace deal. We want to end this war. We don't want any more bodies, because at the end of the day, it is a war of attrition. Russia has far more people than Ukraine, whereas Ukraine has just got nothing but military support and money from the US. In other words, Zelensky doesn't want the wallet to run dry, and Ukraine says it will continue to war on its own terms, regardless of what Trump wants. In other words, I think this is just the beginning. All of the things that we listed off right here earlier in the video are not only currently happening, but are actually good for the world, for the US, for the economy. We've had dementia Joe Biden in office for far too long, and there was loads of incompetence at the White House, and anybody and everybody did whatever the hell they wanted. It's time that they start to stand in line and that we start to put US citizens and the markets first. Now, right now, you're like, okay, this is a lot of political talk, but what does this actually mean for XRP and RLUSD, their stablecoin? Well, listen to what he just shared at the end of the speech and what that actually means for stablecoins, for global remittances, for the future of money and finance.
This is simply us rising to the challenge of modern times, a response towards the development of economy. We're thinking about the future tools. And what's relevant today is what I've said before, creation of a system, using the groundwork of the systems in each country, exchanging of financial information, and those tools that I've mentioned will develop them. Thank you.
So he's talking about using the future tools, using groundwork that we already have laid out, and the creation of a system exchanging financial information. All of that leads to the future of technology and money, which is blockchain. And I can think of no better player in that entire space than the one who has regulatory clarity, is the 7th largest crypto by market cap, Ripple, that is now, according to Brad Garlinghouse, able to see the light at the end of the tunnel as headwinds are turning to tailwinds, and opportunity is enormous. Now, before we dive into how Ripple is actually going to implement these systems and how they already are with one of the biggest economies in the world, Dubai, if you've been enjoying the video so far, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like it helps us out, and also go click on the link down below, or just go to bullrunners.com to sign up for the early bird list. We have about a day and 10 hours left. That is it. If you want to be a crypto millionaire, and this is not our guarantee to you, right? So there's an income disclaimer. We're not guaranteeing you're going to be a crypto millionaire. It's just if that's a goal of yours, then this is a way to fast track that, because you're going to get early bird access to exclusive altcoin picks, market analysis, and our crypto education inner circle. We can only accept so many people, and we're only handing out bonuses through this time frame for a day. So if you haven't already, go to bullrunners.com, because the time is running out. By the time you see this video, you're not going to see a day. You're going to see less time on there. So go to bullrunners.com. Look forward to seeing you on the other side. Let's get back into the video. So in this recent post from Ripple, they talk about how stablecoins are projected to reach $3 trillion in the next 5 years, and how the UAE is moving forward with a dirham-backed global stablecoin. Now, think about Ripple right now. They've already developed the technology, have the infrastructure to support stablecoins. So they are actually going to be probably leading the UAE in the development of their stablecoin, and then having global remittances between those two stablecoins, all running on the XRPL. And here is the article directly from Ripple, where they say the UAE has made no secret of its ambition to be a global hub for well-regulated blockchain activities. It is already one of the most advanced jurisdictions when it comes to offering clear regulations for digital asset services. And Ripple has also been a prominent player in that region. And it's not just stablecoins, CBDCs, they also do cross-border payments for remittances, treasury management, supplier payments, international disbursements, all on the RLUSD, which they've been testing. But that's going to launch pretty soon, as they offer top-tier solutions for digital asset custody, tokenization, stablecoins, creating an infrastructure that bridges traditional finance with blockchain. This setup empowers financial institutions, crypto-native companies, and fintechs to build new financial services. And already they've processed $70 billion in volume. And guess what? It's just the beginning, because this market is worth tens of trillions of dollars. So think on it for a second. He doesn't want to get rid of the dollar. He wants to use the dollar. He also wants to use new systems with underlying infrastructure that's already in place, i.e. blockchain, while each country is able to exchange financial information. Again, all of this would not be possible without blockchain. He's definitely referring to blockchain. And if Ripple gets this thing right, and they launch the RLUSD stablecoin right, and then we have peace amongst many countries countries under new leadership at the White House. Chances are RLUSD is going to bring trillions of dollars to the XRPL, which all of that has to flow and use XRP as the underlying asset. You know what that means for XRP? Boom, new all-time highs. And no, this isn't just an idea. The tech is actually there, and no company has it more proven than Ripple right now. As Max Avery, who recently interviewed Brad Garlinghouse, even shared, Ripple's tech investment ensures that the XRP ledger supports stablecoin scalability and security. And think about security when it comes to nation states, handling high volumes and increasing interoperability. This boosts adoption and sustainability. Stablecoins on the XRP ledger combine fiat stability with blockchain benefits, reshaping global payments, liquidity, and financial access. This integration will drive financial inclusion and a more efficient digital economy. And we're talking globally, especially if we have peace in the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine now. Now, that said, let's dive into the price action really quickly just to give you an update on what's recently happened. Recently, we had this double bottom for a nice little W. I like to call it a win. That said, our bottom ranged right here at about 50 cents. As you can see, we had long wicks to the downside, a break above this range right here at about 52 cents, brought us all the way up to 57 cents, which was our recent resistance right up here. So we'll toss a line there. And as you can see, we were supported there. When we broke down, we failed to break back out. So yes, we were sold off right there. However, I do believe this price action is going to hold, considering the volume did increase quite tremendously relative to where it's been. Right here, you can see we were below average. We had some bigger capitulation days or red bars on the volume. And now, as of the latest candle over here on Binance XRP USDT, we had about $250 million of volume there. We also had far more capitulation back here in October. So things are starting to turn up for XRP. A growth in buy volume is huge, especially if you start to get a double bottom range. And now you're breaking right above this range right here at about 54 cents. And I believe we're probably going to hold it on the daily. So come tomorrow, if you see it close above this range here at like 54.3 cents or 5 cents, then things are looking pretty good for XRP. I thoroughly expect it to follow the rest of the market into this range here. And generally speaking, we've been talking about this for quite some time. 50 cents has been our support. And as you can see here, we had quite the bear trap for 1 and 2 or 3 days right here. In other words, people were bearish here because the market broke down, only to get trapped into that position if they are in a short because the market really rallied strongly. And so this rally, and here's what's really, really interesting, right? It didn't require that much volume relative to overall volume because we're still relatively below average for the price to pump all the way 15% or 7 cents. So that's a very good indicator that capitulation is truly done, and it looks primed to go right back up to this 64 to 65 cent range. If we break above this range, 75 cents is the next target. So I do believe this is a pretty easy play. I'm currently adding to my position. That is not financial advice for you to do the same. And so that's a total disclaimer. Make your own decisions. This is just what I will be doing with my portfolio. I am currently adding to my position at 54 cents because the entire market is bullish and because I can already tell that a lot of people have capitulated. So unless we get some sort of a crazy event over the next couple of days, chances are we're going to continue going higher. So one last time, if you enjoyed the video and learned something new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also head on over to bullrunners.com because again, by the time you see this, you won't have 1 day left. If you're really ready to become a crypto millionaire, we're going to help you to reach that goal. Again, we can't guarantee you're going to be a millionaire, but we're going to do our best to make sure you have the right tools, resources, education, training, all of the above. This is basically the Netflix of crypto. Okay, so join that early bird list to get exclusive altcoin picks, market analysis, and access our crypto education inner circle when we launch it. And if you don't within this time frame, you're not going to get some bonuses. So it's really important that you do it sooner rather than later. Thanks so much for watching the video, my friend. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.